I think we all deep inside want to make the world better. We just might have different ideas of how to get there. And sometimes I'm afraid that we get so caught up in the wishing that it were different that we forget to appreciate the process.
Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe, and I'm coming to you with a treat today. We've talked to you before about the fact that we offer groups at Ignited, and there are these live, amazing support groups with some of our incredible Ignited coaches and me. And I'm going to let you look behind the scenes today. So what I do every Tuesday is I show up with a theme. And I talk to the group about the theme, and I answer questions, and we really dive in deeply. And what you're going to get today is you're going to get to have one of those themes introduced to you without having to pay 5 cents. So I hope you really enjoy it. Again, this is one of those deep topics that we get into on our weekly groups. We have 10 of these groups now. And so I always love to bring up challenging topics that help our ignited heroes really look at their life in a different way. And hopefully it'll help you in the same way to analyze, inspect, and get a different perspective on what it is you're going through. Have fun. One of my clients, one of our participants, was telling me that she's feeling overwhelmed because she felt like she can't save the world. She felt like she can't do everything that she needs to do, everything that'll make the world a better place. And I related, right? We all, and it doesn't even matter which side of any of the arguments or any of the theories or any of anything you fall on. I think we all deep inside want to make the world better. We just might have different ideas of how to get there. And sometimes I'm afraid that we get so caught up in the wishing that it were different that we forget to appreciate the process that we end up going down. I'm not ready for it yet, but we're going to do a whole monthly workshop. I think it's going to happen in July, hopefully in early July, if not late July, but on mindfulness and meditation. You know, I get into it in the course and I present some options, but we don't go incredibly deeply into it. Jennifer has her hypnosis group, and so she obviously does some of that work in there. But there's little comfort in future planning or looking back. Every once in a while we can get nostalgic. Every once in a while we can have hope for the future. But even hope and nostalgia are not exactly comfort, right? And in times of stress, in times of overwhelm, we need to get centered. We have to be able to find a way to get centered, because even to carry through with the action for the future hope, even the ability to really connect to the nostalgia and feel good about what we've been through, it oftentimes requires us to just have this sense of calm about us. We talked about it Friday, and I'm more than okay talking about it more in the context of today's group, especially as it relates to and it brings up feelings for different people. But I really want to honor what you guys need and not just what I want to talk about. And so there's so much being brought up, and you know, Sophie and I were recording an intro for one of our podcast episodes. So we obviously talked about this a lot, but this month was supposed to be our fuck shame month for the podcast. And I've always looked at fuck shame from the, hey, you're shaming me and I'm going to take back my power and fight the shame. But that's the way we've talked about it quite a bit. As addicts and alcoholics, those names that people give us, there's shame, there's stigma attached to that then creates shame. And we have to fight it. That's why I wear the bracelet. It's why when somebody tries to make me feel badly about who I am or choices I've made, that's why I wear the bracelet, is I have to kind of remember, oh, wait, this isn't about shame. I can always get better, right? I can always do the work to make myself a better person. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. And I hope that makes sense, the distinction between those two, right? Always room for improvement. That is very different than saying that I'm a damaged, broken human being. So fuck shame always came from that side. Fuck you, you're shaming me, and I'm going to fight back. But this week, it took on a different meaning for me as well. And that is, even us, even all of us here in our disempowered states to some extent, sometimes we find ourselves either shaming other people or accepting other people who shame others. Either way. And when I was recording this podcast episode with Sophie, it dawned on me that, F shame comes from that side as well. Right? The side where, hey, if I get to recognize the impact shame has on me, when somebody shames me, it destroys me. It makes me run for the hills. It makes me want to hide. It makes me want to be less of a person. It makes me sometimes literally not want to live. Like, we all know that. There's not a single person on this call right now who doesn't know what that feels like. And if we know that that's true, it stands to reason that people who we either make shamed ourselves or allow to be made shamed have the exact same reaction. And so there becomes like an active, and I'm talking far beyond race right now, but the big thing that's coming up here for us in the US right now is race, and there's a reason for it. But this is where the not speaking up piece of the puzzle comes in. And one of the questions for this week in particular was about finding purpose. That's one of the points is, how do I find purpose? And I think oftentimes some of the people that I've seen who found purpose, oftentimes it does have, other people have a role in it. I'm not going to say I've never seen anybody find purpose that does not involve helping other people. It happens, but oftentimes it has to do with a community, and it has to do with giving back, right? There's like this reciprocal relationship. And I love that quote. And so now it kind of gave me this. I mean, obviously I've been evangelizing F shame myself, but I've been kind of very focused within a niche on that. So F shame, really, addiction and body image are the two places where F shame really has seemed to take off, if you kind of look online and hashtags and things like that. But I really believe in the power of shame, and I believe that it's playing a role in all of these fights that we're having, right? I don't remember who I was talking to. I was thinking Sophie was in it, my wife, but there was somebody else involved. And I said, look, at the end, these conversations always come down to the fact that the people who are stigmatizing feel like they're inherently better than the people who are being stigmatized. I mean, if we're really basic about it, that's kind of what it comes down to. I'm better than you, therefore I have power over you. And I should. It's ordained. Now, when we talk about alcoholics, and I have to put in air quotes because who've been around for a while know I hate those terms, but I'm using it because that's what we get to hear all the time. When it comes to addicts and alcoholics, let's be honest about it. We've accepted that for a long time. I am damaged. There is something wrong with me. I am a piece of you know what. And those of you who've worked through the program for a while know that that's a big piece of what we fight internally. How do I at least get to the point where I believe I'm worthy? Because if I can't, there's no way I'm going to persuade anybody else that they are. And the point I want to make is, what if we can take that fight to every other group that's marginalized? And say, look, there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing inherently wrong with you, period, point blank. Like, I don't have to like you. I don't have to relate to you. None of that has to be in place, right? It just, I don't get to stigmatize and shame you because you're different or I don't understand you. And I think that's to me where I really see the rubber meets the road for me personally. Is it's easy for me, like, let's just be honest, it's easy for me to focus on addiction. I beat that shame. So I find little moments or little crevices of when it still rears its head, and then I can help you guys come up, because I can pull you up this hill, this mountain that I've climbed. But what came front and center to me over the last few weeks is there are a lot of groups that haven't had that experience yet. As groups, I would argue probably alcoholism and addiction in general is going through that to some extent as well. But that's a group of a few million people. There are hundreds of millions of people, maybe a few billions of people that are struggling with systemic shaming and stigmatization. So I wonder if, at least for the short little present moment, as I share kind of our struggles, if we can allow ourselves to look at those, and I think actually, if we do that, if we can extend from our own feelings of shame around our problems, around our food or addiction or alcohol or weed or whatever it is, porn, drug, whatever it is for you, if we can extend and recognize that it's actually just the human experience of being shamed and stigmatized and pigeonholed and boxed, then it creates a much bigger, more empathetic experience. And it empowers us, even in our stigmatized place, even in a box, even as people look down at us, to go, well, fuck them. I don't have, like the Eleanor Roosevelt quote, I don't have to give them that power. And I don't have to feel disempowered to help other people just because there are people out there who see me as less than. Does that make sense?
Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.